Hello everyone, Dark of All Trades here. Now when I choose videos to respond to, the shorter the video, the shorter my response tends to be. One can only make so many points in 20 seconds. Shorts are just easier to address. And this leads me to today's video. Today's video is actually 3 shorts from a fairly popular content creator called Lily J. Well, Lily J has some questions. Since I love answering questions, these are right up my alley. Surely, Lily will take what I have to say seriously and honestly consider what I'm saying. Of course she will. Since they're shorts, this shouldn't take me too long to address, right? So let's see what Lily J has questions about.
Only heaven silent for an answer.
The first one is called, "Hey Atheists, answer this." Well, I'm not one to take demands very well, but I'll bite. Maybe she has a genuine question. Let's see what she wants me to answer.
Hey atheists, I have a question.
Hey Lily, I have an answer.
So you call religious people crazy for believing in miracles, right?
So this question begins with a problematic assumption that needs unpacking. This framing misrepresents the position of most thoughtful atheists and creates an unnecessary divide before the conversation even starts. While some atheists may use dismissive language, the mainstream position is a reasoned critique of evidence, not a judgment on sanity. Most atheists recognize that religious beliefs stem from complex historical, cultural, and psychological factors, not from mental illness or intellectual deficiency. Religious belief is a normal human phenomenon that has existed across virtually all cultures throughout history. Consider this. We don't think children are crazy for believing in Santa Claus, even though adults consider this belief factually incorrect. Similarly, most adults don't view religious believers as mentally unsound. They simply disagree about what constitutes sufficient evidence for supernatural claims. The core issue isn't about intelligence or sanity, but about epistemology, that is, how we determine what's true. Miracles, by definition, break natural laws, meaning they require extraordinary evidence. If someone says that they saw a person regrow a limb instantly, the logical response isn't to assume they're crazy, but to ask for strong, verifiable evidence. Human perception is fallible, and memory is unreliable, which is why eyewitness accounts alone don't hold up in scientific investigation. But let's take that example a step further and see if I can't show my point. If a stranger claimed to have seen Bigfoot heal a broken leg with a touch, would you accept it without proof? If not, why should religious miracles get a free pass? The real issue isn't just belief in miracles. It's the inconsistent application of skepticism. But if someone claims a faith healer cured their illness, many religious people accept it without question. But if someone made the same claim about alien abduction, those same people would likely demand rigorous proof. This double standard is what atheists often push back against. The problem isn't believing in miracles, it's believing in them without applying the same critical thinking used in other areas of life. Many brilliant, rational people throughout history have held religious beliefs. Isaac Newton revolutionized physics and mathematics while being deeply religious. Francis Collins, who led the Human Genome Project, is an evangelical Christian. Their religious convictions don't diminish their intellectual accomplishments or rational capabilities in other domains. What atheists typically question is not the sanity of believers, but the evidential basis for specific miraculous claims. The principle that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence applies to all assertions that contradict established understanding, whether religious or secular. If she really wanted to, a more productive conversation acknowledges that both religious and non-religious people are trying to make sense of our complex world using the intellectual tools available to them, rather than beginning with accusations or assumptions about mental stability.
But you believe in the most preposterous miracle of all, that the universe was created from nothing.
The claim that atheists believe the universe was created from nothing fundamentally misunderstands both scientific cosmology and atheistic positions. This is a classic strawman argument, attributing to atheists a belief that most, if any, don't actually hold. Modern cosmology doesn't assert that the universe appeared from absolute nothingness. The Big Bang Theory describes how our observable universe expanded from an incredibly hot, dense state about 13.8 billion years ago. It doesn't make definitive claims about what existed before this initial expansion or assert creation from a literal nothingness. When physicists like Lawrence Krauss discuss nothing, they're referring to something very specific, a quantum vacuum state. This isn't nothing in the philosophical sense of an absolute non-existence. A quantum vacuum contains energy, follows physical laws, and has definitive properties. It's nothing only in the limited sense of lacking conventional matter, similar to how we might casually say a container is empty, even though it contains air molecules and electromagnetic fields. Here is where the irony emerges. It's actually many theological traditions that propose true creation ex nihilo, that is, creation from absolute nothingness. When Genesis states, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth," many interpretations hold that God created without using any pre-existing materials. When we ask, if God made the universe, what did he make it from? Many theological answers amount to nothing, making divine creation the actual something from nothing proposition. Scientific cosmology, by contrast, explores naturalistic frameworks where physical effects have physical causes. Current models investigate various possibilities for cosmic origins: quantum fluctuations in pre-existing fields, bubble universes within a multiverse, cyclical universe models, or phase transitions of pre-existing states. None of these require miraculous creation from absolute philosophical nothingness. What most atheists actually believe is that we should follow evidence where it leads, acknowledge the current boundaries of our understanding, and remain open to new discoveries about cosmic origins. The question incorrectly frames the limitations of current scientific knowledge as a positive claim about miraculous creation.
It's impossible for something to come from nothing. How does that work?
So this claim, it's impossible for something to come from nothing, sounds obvious based on everyday experience, but it makes an enormous assumption that we need to critically examine. First, this assertion is presented as self-evident truth without supporting evidence. It's essentially an intuition derived from our everyday experience with objects and causes, but our common sense intuitions aren't reliable guides to the fundamental nature of reality. Newtonian physics seemed intuitively obvious until quantum mechanics and relativity revealed a deeper reality that defies our everyday expectations. But more importantly, nobody has ever observed or studied absolute nothing to test this claim empirically. True philosophical nothingness would be the complete absence of everything. No space, no time, no energy, no physical laws, no potentiality. By definition, such nothing cannot be created in a laboratory or observed in nature. Every nothing we've ever examined has actually been something. Even empty space contains quantum fields and virtual particles and physical laws. Quantum physics directly challenges our classical intuitions about causality and existence. In quantum vacuum states, virtual particles appear to emerge and disappear spontaneously. Now, while these occur within existing quantum fields, so they're not truly from nothing, they demonstrate that at a fundamental level of reality, our everyday understanding of causality has limited application. The claim creates a logical conundrum. If something cannot come from nothing, and there was ever a state of absolute nothing, then there could never be anything at all, since something clearly exists now. So either something has always existed in some form, meaning there was never nothing, or something can indeed come from nothing. Either conclusion contradicts the original assertion. Furthermore, claiming nothing doesn't have properties is itself paradoxical. It attributes to nothingness the property of having no properties. This suggests that true philosophical nothingness may not even be a coherent concept, making assertions about what it can or cannot do questionable at best. This question also assumes atheists believe something came from nothing and must explain it, but most atheists don't hold this position. Contemporary cosmological models generally suggest transformations of pre-existing states rather than creation ex nihilo. The demand for explanation misdirects the conversation by attributing to atheists a belief most don't actually hold. And so that's it for the first one. Starting a little rough, but maybe the next one will be better. Perhaps science isn't her strong suit. I'm not going to judge her too harshly yet. Let's move on to the next one. So her second one of her shorts is titled, "Why do atheists get mad when I mention God?" Interrobang. Well, I don't think atheists do, but let's give her a chance. Maybe she has some good explanation.
Hey, atheists, I have a question.
Hey Lily, I have an answer.
Why do you get so mad in my comments when I mention God?
So here's another question that contains a problematic assumption that deserves unpacking. She's framing critical engagement as emotional overreaction, creating a rhetorical shield against substantive discussion. First, the question confuses disagreement with anger. When atheists respond to religious claims with counter-arguments, questions, or requests for evidence, these aren't necessarily expressions of anger. They're normal parts of intelligent discourse. Labeling reasoned arguments as getting mad functions to dismiss the substance of arguments without addressing their content. What typically prompts atheistic responses isn't merely mentioning God, but making specific knowledge claims about God that are presented as established facts rather than personal beliefs. There's a crucial distinction between "I believe God helps me through difficult times," a personal faith statement, and "God definitely designed human beings," a factual claim about the natural world that requires evidence. This question also reveals a double standard. In the first short, Lily expresses concerns about atheists allegedly calling religious believers crazy, showing sensitivity to criticism of their own beliefs. Yet she finds it puzzling when atheists respond critically to religious assertions. This inconsistent application of skepticism suggests an expectation that religious claims should be exempt from critical examination, while atheistic positions must withstand rigorous questioning. True intellectual honesty requires applying the same standards of evidence and reasoning to all claims, regardless of whether they align with our own existing worldview. If we expect strong evidence before accepting scientific claims, we should apply that same standard to religious claims. Finally, this framing ignores the social context of these discussions. When religious concepts influence legislation, education criteria, or healthcare policy, they become matters of public concern, not merely private beliefs. Critical responses to religious assertions in public discourse reflect the real-world consequences these beliefs have, not personal animosity toward believers.
Like, how can you get offended at something that you don't even think exists?
Once again, Lily shows she fundamentally misunderstands what actually concerns atheists. Her framing here shows a logical confusion that, again, needs unpacking. Atheists aren't offended by God. They're responding to human actions performed in God's name. This distinction is important. It's like saying, how can you be upset about Voldemort's existence if you know he's fictional? The answer is simple. While Voldemort doesn't exist, the books, films, and fan culture around him certainly do, and these have real-world effects. It's more like saying, you know Voldemort is fictional, so why care about his fans trying to run the government? What typically prompts atheistic objections are concrete realities like religious believers attempting to shape public policy based on religious texts rather than evidence-based reasoning, such as opposing climate change actions because, quote, God promised not to flood the earth again. Religious concepts being inserted into public school science curricula as seen in ongoing battles over teaching evolution. Healthcare decisions being restricted based on religious beliefs, like hospital systems refusing to provide certain reproductive services. Civil rights being denied to certain groups based on religious interpretations, as with opposition to LGBTQIA+ rights. These are all tangible human behaviors with real consequences, not reaction to a deity. The confusion stems from failing to distinguish between the concept of God and the actions taken by people who believe in that concept. That said, even if atheists were responding to the concept itself, this wouldn't be irrational. We can legitimately critique fictional characters based on their depicted attributes. Many people find Thanos' snap half the universe away plan in Marvel movies morally repugnant, despite knowing he's fictional. Similarly, an atheist might find the biblical portrayal of God ordering genocide in Deuteronomy or sending bears to maul children for mocking a prophet ethically troubling, without believing these events historically occurred. The question attempts to create a logical trap, but actually reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of the atheistic position and the distinction between fictional concepts and their very real applications in society.
You don't get mad at Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, but God makes you mad? How does that work?
The comparison between reactions to God versus Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy overlooks another fundamental distinction. It's not about existence, but about social power and impact. Santa Claus doesn't inspire legislation. The Tooth Fairy doesn't influence Supreme Court nominations. Neither figure motivates people to knock on your door to share the good news. These childhood figures remain confined to a specific context with clearly defined boundaries and minimal social influence. So consider what would happen if Santa Claus belief operated like many religious systems. Schools teaching the literal existence of Santa in science classes. Politicians citing Claus values when opposing civil rights legislation. Hospitals refusing certain medical procedures because Santa wouldn't approve. Children being told they'll be punished eternally for not believing in Santa. And wars fought over whether Santa prefers milk or eggnog with his cookies. If this happened, you would see atheists actively opposing Santa Claus beliefs with the same vigor they sometimes apply to religious concepts. The response isn't about the fictional character, it's about the real-world impact of belief in that character. And this explains why most Western atheists don't actively campaign against Shintoism, various indigenous spiritual practices, or even certain forms of Buddhism. These belief systems, while supernatural in nature, rarely attempt to shape Western legislation, education, or healthcare policy. When beliefs remain personal without imposing on others, they generate far less opposition. The anti-theistic position specifically targets religious concepts that extend beyond personal faith into public imposition. It's not about being mad at God any more than critics of harmful government policies are mad at the Constitution. It's about opposing specific human interpretations and applications of these concepts when they restrict others' freedoms or promote evidence-free thinking in public discourse. The Santa comparison, rather than exposing atheistic inconsistency, actually illuminates why different reactions are entirely logical. The social consequences and authority attributed to these concepts differ dramatically. And that's the end of the second short. So to be fair, there may be many angry atheists in her comment section. So let's check our comment section under this video to see just how mad these atheists get in comments. Or I'll bet there'll be some people giving answers to the question. Let's see. It's just what I expected. I don't see anger in these comments. Maybe she's talking about other videos that I haven't seen yet? YouTube comment sections can be pretty toxic. That is, except for mine, of course, somehow. Thank you to all of you for keeping my comment section a place for people to feel comfortable bringing up beliefs and questions. Anyway, this one was a bit worrisome. I'm starting to think that she isn't exactly being honest. But again, I don't want to be too hard on her. Maybe she doesn't know any atheists? Oh well, let's move on to the third one. Her third short is titled, Hey Atheists, lowercase I, have a question. Well, this isn't giving me high hopes, but let's get into what she wants to know.
Hey atheists, I have a question.
Hey Lily, I have an answer.
So, you believe the whole universe is a coincidence and made itself, right?
So this question creates a false dichotomy that misrepresents scientific understanding of cosmic origins. This framing suggests only two possibilities, either divine creation or random accident. Reality is much more nuanced. First, describing naturalistic processes as coincident fundamentally mischaracterizes them. A coincidence implies random events without causal connections, like bumping into an old friend in a foreign country. Scientific cosmology proposes nothing of the sort. The universe operates according to consistent physical laws and causal relationships, the opposite of coincidence. When water freezes at 0 degrees centigrade, we don't call this a coincidence. It's a predictable result of physical properties. Similarly, the phrase made itself anthropomorphizes natural processes by implying intentional self-creation. Contemporary cosmological models don't suggest the universe consciously created itself. Rather, they describe transformations of energy states, quantum fluctuations, or other physical processes that don't require agency. This is similar to how we understand crystallization. Salt doesn't decide to form cubic crystals. It's a natural expression of underlying atomic forces. A deterministic perspective recognizes that physical events follow consistent causal patterns governed by natural laws. These laws appear to emerge from deeper mathematical relationships that give the universe its remarkable order and consistency. Even quantum indeterminacy operates within probabilistic frameworks with definite patterns, not pure randomness. This question also employs an argument from incredulity, essentially saying, this seems too complex to happen naturally, therefore it must be designed. This reasoning fallacy substitutes subjective amazement for objective evidence. Throughout history, phenomena once attributed to divine action, from lightning to disease to planetary motion, have yielded to naturalistic explanations through continued investigation. Most atheists don't claim complete knowledge about the earliest moments of cosmic origins, particularly before the Planck time. The intellectually honest position acknowledges the current boundaries of our understanding while recognizing that these limitations don't justify inserting supernatural explanations as placeholders. We don't fully know yet is a more accurate position than either total coincidence or divine creation.
But this simple donut can't make itself? Needs a baker? How does that work?
So this donut analogy represents a version of the watchmaker argument, but it contains a fundamental category error that undermines its effectiveness. It equates objects within the universe with the universe itself. Let's examine why this comparison fails. Donuts are specific arrangements of pre-existing materials within our universe. Their creation involves rearranging atoms that already exist. Flour, sugar, and oil molecules are reorganized, not created from nothing. A baker doesn't create the atoms in a donut. They merely rearrange existing matter into a new configuration. The universe, by contrast, encompasses all existing matter, energy, space, and time. Comparing a donut to the universe is like comparing a wave to the entire ocean. They're fundamentally different categories requiring different explanatory frameworks. How do we determine whether something needs a creator? Through empirical evidence and comparative analysis. We've observed thousands of donuts being made by bakers and 0 instances of donuts forming naturally, giving us strong inductive evidence that donuts require creators. But how many universes have we observed being created? None. With a sample size of 1 universe and no observed processes of universe creation, we cannot make the same inductive leap we make with donuts. This analogy also creates a problematic issue that theists like to criticize, that is, infinite regression. If complexity requires a creator, and the creator must be at least as complex as their creation to design it, wouldn't the creator also require its own creator? If the response is, God doesn't need a creator, this special pleading undermines the very principle the argument is based on. The analogy fails even further because it provides no mechanism for distinguishing between created and non-created things. Lily's worldview, everything is created, the donut, the table it sits on, the building they're in, the planet they're on, are all supposedly designed. But if everything is created, then being created loses its explanatory value because there's nothing to compare it against. Natural processes demonstrably create complex ordered systems without conscious design. Snowflakes form intricate hexagonal patterns. Planets organize into stable orbital systems, and evolutionary processes develop remarkable biological adaptations. These phenomena show that organization and complexity can emerge from natural principles without requiring an external organizer. The donut argument offers an intuitive, but ultimately misleading comparison that fails to account for the fundamental differences between rearrangements of existing matter and the origin of all matter. And that's the end of the 3 shorts. So now, what were Lily J's questions for atheists or otherwise? Atheists call religious people crazy for believing in miracles, but atheists believe in the most preposterous miracle of all, that the universe was created from nothing. But it's impossible for something to come from nothing, so how does that work? Why do atheists get so mad in my comments when I mention God? How can you be offended by something that you don't even think exists? You don't get mad at Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, but God makes you mad. How does that work? Atheists believe the whole universe is a coincidence that made itself, but a simple donut can't make itself as it needs a baker. How does that work? So what do you think about these questions? Since atheists are not a monolith, we can have different answers that range from very similar to widely different. Do you have different answers than what I expressed here? Let me know in the comments below. Overall, I give Lily J well, she's a Muslim, so I give her videos a 9 facepalming Mr. Mohammeds out of 10. She demonstrated extremely poor academic integrity. Throughout all 3 parts, she consistently misrepresents scientific positions and atheistic viewpoints. No serious cosmologist claims the universe came from nothing in the simplistic way presented. Rather, theories address quantum fluctuations, vacuum energy, or simply acknowledge the limits of our understanding before the Planck epoch. Lily fails to engage with any actual scientific literature or philosophical arguments about cosmology, causality, or the nature of existence. She makes sweeping generalizations about atheists without providing supporting evidence or acknowledging the diversity of atheistic perspectives. The donut analogy reveals a profound misunderstanding of cosmological arguments and falsely equates contingent objects within the universe to the universe itself, displaying ignorance of the distinction between creating something within an existing framework of physical laws versus the emergence of those laws themselves. She also displays significant intellectual dishonesty in her rhetorical approach. She consistently assigns beliefs to atheists that few actually hold, setting up strawman arguments instead of engaging with authentic positions. The questions are framed in deliberately leading ways designed to trap rather than to understand, with presuppositions built into their very structure. The second part prejudges emotional reactions. Why do you get so mad? Without evidence, creating a no-win scenario where any criticism can be framed as an emotional overreaction. The false equivalencies between complex cosmological processes and mundane human activities like baking demonstrate either a willful misunderstanding or deliberate misrepresentation of the arguments. She presents complex philosophical positions in an oversimplified, caricatured manner that strips them of their nuance and intellectual foundation. The repeated, "how does that work?" refrain appears designed to create the impression of unanswerable questions where the issues raised have been extensively addressed in philosophical and scientific literature. That's it for this one, so now I turn it over to you. What do you think? Do you think I handily addressed all her concerns here? Or do you think she got something over on me that I missed? Let me know in the comments. But now if you like these responses, you can encourage me to make more videos like this by hitting that like button. And if you'd like an answer to any question apologists can come up with, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already to get fresh-filled answers delivered directly to your door or screen weekly. Speaking of fresh, I need to give a minty fresh thanks to my fresh patrons of Bel Air, especially Calamitous Anima and Sora, who are top tier, along with the rest of you wonderful plants who grow back every year. I appreciate all of you. If you'd like to take over my garden, you can join them for as low as $1 a month at patreon.com/darkofalltrades. Thank you to all of you who have already gone out of your way to help out. Though if you want to help the channel in non-monetary ways, things like subscribing, liking, sharing videos, and even talking about me in the channel to other content creators helps immensely. A bonus thanks to all of you in the live chat. I see you there. I love seeing your conversations that happen there too. I'm not sure if playing videos on repeat still helps, but try it anyway. Maybe it will. Either way, I appreciate all of you. Thank you for being here with me. And as always, keep learning.
So that's why my religion